We are now live. Sound check. Audit, Finance, and Administration Committee for Thursday, April 7th. Sound check.
We are now live.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Audit and Finance, and beautiful sunny day that it is. I'm going to call this meeting to order, and I'm going to advise members of the public are advised that our meetings are webcast live by the City of Hamilton and temporarily archived on the city's website. Any presentations and reports considered at this meeting excuse me, are available on the city's website, and that members of the public can contact the city clerk's office to acquire documents in an alternate format. As well, a reminder that all electronic devices, I'm putting mine down right now, are to be switched to non-audible function during committee meetings. Members are reminded of the 5-minute time limit, which will be adhered to during this meeting, and members can submit another request to speak if they require more time to ask questions. Please note, Madam Clerk has confirmed that quorum is present, and there are no ceremonial activities today. Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, there are added consent items 7.1K through 7.1P, which are all minutes from the Committee Against Racism. There's an added discussion item, item 10.1, Governance Review Subcommittee Report 22-001 from March 31st. There is an added private and confidential motion, which is 14.3, appointments to the Hamilton Women and Gender Equity Committee. And while not a change to the agenda, there were additional correspondence added to item 5.2, all related to that matter.
Thank you for that. May I please have a mover and a second to approve the agenda as amended? Moved by Councillor Vanderbeek, seconded by Councillor Wilson. All in favor? Electronic vote, please. And Councillor Powers has a thumbs up. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And that vote carries 7-0.
Thank you. Okay, and Council Chambers is showing, was Councillor Clark not in attendance, or?
So to the chair, Councillor Clark is in attendance. His picture will show when he activates his mic, but otherwise it'll just show the room in general.
Thank you. I just want to confirm so that any viewing public will know that. Declarations of interest today, committee members, are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. May I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Powers, Councillor Ferguson. Electronic vote, please. I'm going too fast, Angela, let me know. Thumbs up for Councillor Powers. Thank you, sir. And Councillor Wilson.
Excellent.
Good morning, Councillor.
And that vote carries 7-0.
Thank you. We're going to move on now to communications items. So we have item 5.1 is correspondence from Paul Paradis, Ross McBride LLP, respecting a request for extension of development charge demolition credits, Hamilton Central Business Park, formerly 440 Victoria Avenue, no north, now Studebaker Place, and Ferris Street, DCR Holdings, Inc. Recommendations be received and referred to the General Manager of Finance and Corporate Services for a report back to Audit, Finance and Administration Service. We have a mover and a seconder on correspondence item, moved by Councillor Ferguson, second by Councillor Brenda Johnson. Are there any questions to this? Seeing none, recorded vote, please, to refer that. Thumbs up, Councillor Powers. Councillor Wilson, are you a thumbs up? I think she's voted, okay?
Yeah, and that vote carries 7-0.
Thank you. We move on now. Correspondence item 5.2 is from Trent Jarvis, Chair of Hamilton Waterfront Trust, respecting his retirement from Hamilton Waterfront Trust Board of Trustees. Recommendation is to receive. And I mover and a seconder. Don't all rush at this. Moved by Councillor Ferguson, seconded by Councillor Wilson. Thank you. Any discussions on this item? Councillor Ferguson, sir. Your mic is not on. Still not hearing you, sir.
Hear me now?
Yes, we can.
The
Thank you.
computer tricks me. The little button says I'm on, but the screen says no. Anyhow, I'll figure it out by the time we finish doing virtual meetings. So what's the date of the trust coming in to see us? I know we've been waiting a long time for this. Do we have a firm date now? I don't know if the clerk can answer that.
Is that
So through the chair, the date that committee requested at the last AFNM was April 21st, and I have, since it's been ratified by council, I have emailed the Hamilton Waterfront Trust requesting their attendance at the 21st meeting. I haven't heard back yet.
So we don't know if they're coming yet, because it was interesting that the chair give a lot of a good reference to the executive director of the Waterfront Trust. And I'm not sure if we should read something into that, but if he's coming to the next meeting, that's great. If not, we'll deal with it at that time. Thanks, Madam Chair.
not a problem, sir? So the motion's on the recommendations on the floor to receive. All in favor, electronic vote, please.
And that vote carries 7-0.
Everyone, we're going to move on to declaration requests. There are none. Delegation, sorry. Then we have item 7. So consent item 7.1, A's through to P. That's been amended, as Madam Clerk has stated. May I have a mover and a second to receive the consent item 7.1A to 7.1P? Moved by Councillor Brenda Johnson, second by Councillor Vanderbeek. And are there any questions or discussions on any of these items? Councillor Powers, sir?
Just a request, if possible. When we get a whole package of these minutes relative to certain committees, so I see them here from 7.1A to I is anyway. There's multiple minutes, and I know it's catch up. If there's a recommendation coming out of those committees, could we perhaps just have a little snapshot summary? So, I mean, like all of you, we go through them and make a note. There was nothing there that really, they all caught my attention, but nothing required council's this committee's engagement. So, if that's possible, that would be very helpful. Thank you very much.
So
Thank
through
you,
the
Madam
chair,
Clerk.
just for clarity's sake, for any advisory committee minutes that have any recommendations that are outside of the general routine motions of the committee is required to do a citizen committee report, which comes up as a discussion item at the appropriate standing committee. So if there is anything in there that is outside the realm of their normal request, you would see that through a citizen committee report. You would still then receive the minutes at another time. Are you requesting to see all of the motions in a snapshot?
No, not at all. Since you've already taken care of this, Elsie, way ahead of us. That's quite adequate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. So may I, now that's an electronic vote. Seeing no further questions, please.
Perfect. And that vote carries 7-0.
Thank you. We're moving on to item 7.2 is fraud, waste, and whistleblower semi-annual update, AUD 22003. We have Charles Brown and Bridget Menard present. May I have a mover and a second to put it on the floor? Moved by Councillor Ferguson, second by Councillor Wilson. Any questions or comments to this report, please? Seeing none, we'll have an electronic vote. Thank you. Thumbs up for Councillor Powers.
Okay.
Is that all right, Madam Clerk?
Vote carries 7-0.
Thank you. Item 7.3, everyone. Annual Occupational Injury and Illness Claims Report 2021, HUR 002, citywide. Laura Fontana and Matthew Sutcliffe in attendance. Can I have a motion to put the mover and second to put it on the floor? Councillor Powers, Councillor Vanderbeek. Any questions to this report, please? Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to go to page 7 of the report. And I just want to look at the big numbers on top 10 injury types by total incident count. Muscular disorder, that's like a pulled back, I assume, is it? Or um, something that generally not long in duration being off, but it's the biggest case we get. So just a brief definition of what muscular disorder is.
Ms. Fontana or?
Thank you, to you, Madam Chair. I will likely turn it over to Dave Lindeman to provide an exact definition, but the musculoskeletal disorder, um, those are injuries that are the direct results of probably lifting items, lifting equipment. It is affecting the muscles, and it's generally speaking temporary in nature, but they are generally as a result of lifting equipment and other exercises or activities that
Like a muscle sprain then,
on a muscle. Yes.
and they're not long duration typically.
No, they're typically short in duration.
Okay, the next one I got is violence. What is violence?
So through you, Madam Chair, the violence, for example, would a good example would be in our lodges where perhaps one of our lodge employees
Okay,
is struck or a victim of violence from one of the residents due to dementia or other related issues.
so it's not employees getting in fights out on the job on a work site.
No, it's no, through you, Madam Chair, it's a direct result of activities that employees are engaged in through their work. That is the result of someone striking them inadvertently. Paramedics, another example. It could
Good
be
point.
a result.
No, that helps a lot. Thank you. And my last one is mental health. Other mental health, how many of those are, and of course, police is having a problem with this too, but how many is it self-proclaimed PTSD, which is applicable, I guess, to firefighters and paramedics?
So through you, Madam Chair, this number is not broken down for this report. We will be breaking that down in our annual mental health activity report. But perhaps I will ask Dave Lindeman if he has a number that we can share with committee.
Through the chair to the councillor, so we don't have a number or breaking down exactly like that, but all of these claims would be adjudicated by the WSIB and they would be approved on their merits of wrong work relatedness. So I'm not sure your terminology about work reported by the employee, but they would all be substantiated. They were allowed by the WSIB given the medical behind it, the incident that may or may not have happened, and the duration of those incidents. But we don't have it broken down
Okay.
specifically.
I
There
think
was some.
Laura knows I've been tracking this for a while.
Yeah.
This is a result of new legislation. Well, it's not so new now. It's probably 5 years old, where first responders can self-proclaim PTSD and go off work for an extended period of time, and you know, because you all you got to do is say I feel stressed today, and then I'm exaggerating here a bit, but I feel stressed today, so I'm going to take 6 months off, and there's nothing the employer can do about that. They have to accept it because they self-proclaimed it. I just think we have a duty to track this. I know police are now, and we had to push and push them, and they've had a significant improvement now. And I haven't. I've seen firefighters at one point, and the last time I saw it, it was improving also. And so. I'd like to make sure that we can continue to track this. I'm surprised you're not tracking it all. You don't know, because we've raised this regularly at AFNA about what's happening in that area. And I got to be careful what I say here, but I just, because it's new legislation, and if you start getting 56 people off as a result of self-proclaimed PTSD, I think we need to know that. And the people who put the legislation in but don't have to pay for it need to know it also. So I'd like us to start tracking that, Laura, if we can, and have it on these reports in the future.
Yeah. Thank you. Through the chair, Councillor, I do recall sharing some PTSD numbers with you in the past. We can certainly update those numbers and incorporate them in future reports.
And the last one I saw, it was quite a remarkable improvement in that area. And because unlike the muscular disorder, these go on for sometimes significant duration. And we had a police officer there who went on for like 7 years. And so I think I think we have a duty to track that because it can become very expensive. And I don't want to deny anybody their rights to do that, but I think we need to track it to make sure everything is trending in the right direction. So you're bringing that back again at a later date then, are you, Laura? Is that what I heard you say?
Through the chair, I'm suggesting we incorporate it in the annual report. Unless you
this
want to see
report?
something, yes, unless you want to see something sooner. Again, we have shared some of this data with you specifically, Councillor. We can update those numbers and send them again.
Yeah.
And my plan is to incorporate it in the subsequent reports, annual reports.
Can it come back at our next AFNA meeting then?
Through the chair, I can if you want a report specifically on PTSD numbers. What I'm suggesting is we can incorporate it into the annual reports.
Which we won't see for another year.
Yes, unless you want something sooner.
Yeah, can you just email the committee then something and show the last trends that we had the last time you did it and what's happening now?
Yep.
Okay, that's all my questions on this report. Thank you.
Thank you for leaving that as direction, Councillor. Thank you. I thought I saw another hand go up. I could have been mistaken. Councillor Powers.
Thank you. My question is on both 7.3 and 7.4. So, Laura, I'm looking for a comment from you. Obviously, the last 2 and a bit years have been, how should we say, unusual in view of the COVID situation. Are you able to comment for us on the obviously there is an impact, but can you just summarize the impact of that on both reports 7.3 and 7.4? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you to you, Madam Chair. Indeed, COVID has had an impact on our numbers. So, for example, with our WSIB related numbers, we had the new lost time incidents increased by 18% over last year. But if you look at our numbers compared to 2019, which are pre-COVID numbers, it actually decreased by 17%. So COVID indeed has had an impact. In terms of attendance, I think we've remained relatively stable, notwithstanding COVID. If you remove the COVID numbers from our attendance activity, they've remained relatively stable and have decreased in some respects as well. So COVID indeed has had an impact on our numbers. We're starting to stabilize now, but they are being managed. We're also reducing the number of the amount of time that employees are off due to COVID and greater intervention, particularly through the work of our return to work services team. But indeed, I would say, notwithstanding COVID, we've remained relatively stable in our attendance and WSIB numbers.
Okay. Thank you. Madam Chair, could you just put me back on the list for item 7.4, please?
Absolutely, sir. I will do that. So now there's no further questions on this item 7.3. We had a mover in a second.
Sorry, to the chair, just Councillor Clark has a question.
My apologies. I didn't have the chat open. Sorry, Councillor Clark, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. That's the problem. There's so much software we're dealing with. Can I just probe a little bit deeper on the PTSD? Are individuals who have PTSD, are they being paid by short-term disability, or would they be under WSIB?
So through you, Madam Chair, they would generally, if it's PTSD directly related to their work, it would be WSIB. Depending on the circumstances, it can also be under the income protection plan. I'll invite Heather McNichol as well, if she has any comments in terms of PTSD, because she's very involved in these matters as well.
Yes, so yes, through you, Chair. That's correct. There's 2 streams that we would manage PTSD claims at the city. The first would be through a WSIB claim if the employee is claiming that the condition arose from the workplace. And then we would manage it non-occupationally if something outside of the workplace triggered their PTSD. In order to have a claim approved by the WSIB, the employee does need to have, a recognized medical diagnosis of PTSD, and that needs to be confirmed by a psychologist or a psychiatrist. So there are, checks and balances in place at the WSIB to ensure that those claims meet the approval criteria. Also, in return to work services, as soon as we receive a claim where there's any type of information that leads us to believe it's a workplace PTSD claim, we endeavor to gather all the facts on our end to ensure that there's no concerns from the employer's perspective about the claim. And then if there are, then we take those forward with the WSIB. So we have a really good line of sight to PTSD claims that come through my team.
So we wouldn't be paying, we're not paying their salary. WSIB pays them a portion of their salary or their income. I guess I should use the word income. Is that what happens?
That's correct. Once the claim's approved by the WSIB, the employee's wages are paid directly by the WSIB.
And Ms. Fontana mentioned an income protection plan. I'm not familiar with that. What is that?
That's the sick benefits our employees receive through their various collective bargaining agreements.
And is the collective bargaining units, their members would receive WSIB for PTSD?
So sorry if I'm confusing everyone. There's two streams. So if you have a work-related PTSD claim,
Yes.
and it's approved, you'd be paid by the WSIB. If let's say you got in a very bad car accident outside of the workplace and you had PTSD from a non-occupational cause, then you would receive short-term disability benefits through the city for that PTSD diagnosis.
And so do we track IPP?
We do.
And we have WSIB numbers? Do they break, does let me rephrase that, sorry, because the WSIB would be the ones collecting the data. So would the WSIB send any information to the city in terms of who's receiving what?
Yes. So we receive data from the WSIB in terms of what the claim, if it's an approved traumatic mental stress claim, like we get good information on the WSIB so we can track these claims. On the non-occupational side, the employer is not always privy to the employee's diagnoses, so it's much harder to track types of absences on the non-occupational side.
Thank you. I think Councillor Ferguson's wise to request that we receive some information about this on a regular basis. But can I suggest, Chair, that Ms. Fontana perhaps have her staff draft up an information report about PTSD claims, mental stress claims, and how we deal with it through WSIB or through the IPP so that we can have a more comprehensive briefing on that matter. Through you, Chair, is that fair, Ms. Fontana?
Lorna, go ahead, Laura.
Yes, thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Indeed, we will bring back an information report specific to PTSD, both WSIB occupational and non-occupational related. And then going forward, we'll incorporate it into our annual reporting to committee and council. But we'll have a specific information report to this committee within the next few weeks.
Thank you. And Chair, I don't mean to put more work on our staff, but it is very confusing to the layperson in terms of how we deal with these mental illnesses. And PTSD, I believe, is actually been described as a disability by the Human Rights Office. So I think having an information report would really help us so that we understand exactly what's going on. And then as we get the reports that Council Ferguson has requested, it'll be easier for us to interpret the numbers, if that's a fair suggestion, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Clark. All the councillors who raised the questions on this today, and appreciate, Laura, that we will you will endeavor to include the PTSD as part of the report going forward, the annual report, and in a more comprehensive fashion. Super.
Yes, we will. Thank you, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you. So with that, see no further speakers. It has been moved and seconded. I'm going to ask for the recorded vote now, please.
And that vote carries 7-0.
Thank you, everyone. We will move on to item 7.4 is the annual employee attendance report 2021 HUR 22003 citywide. Again, we have Laura Fontana and Matthew Sutcliffe. May I please have a mover and a seconder to receive or put the report on the floor? Moved by Councillor Powers, second by Councillor Vanderbeek. It's on the floor. I'm going to recognize Councillor Powers at your earlier requester to speak. Question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Obviously, once again, last year being one of the two COVID years, the way that we carried on business was very, very different. And Laura, could you comment on whether the attendance numbers were as good as we could expect, or whether there was any challenges as a result of the fact that in many cases employees were working from home rather than the outside workers who still needed to carry on their operations. So I would welcome any comments, if possible, through you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Laura?
So thank you through you, Madam Chair. So the average number of short-term disability days per employee increased by 0.8% in lost days and an approximately 8% reduction from the pre-pandemic COVID-related numbers. So they have again stabilized. They've gone down slightly, but we also had significant COVID-related absences as a result of the virus. So in the report, we outlined the number of paid versus unpaid hours due to COVID-19. So there were significant hours. For example, almost 93,000 hours paid for absences related to COVID-19 in 2021, compared to just under 85,000 in 2020. But we have been managing them more aggressively. The return to work services, again, are very involved in managing the COVID-related absences to ensure that the duration of time is not as significant. And there's also been legislative changes that have impacted the duration of a COVID-related absence if someone tests positive. So I would say with respect to absenteeism, separate and apart from COVID, we have remained very, very stable. But there has been indeed an impact from COVID in terms of our absenteeism levels.
Councillor?
Thank you. Just a comment, Madam Chair, is I want to commend the senior leadership team and with the support of council in order to devolve to changes that allows the workers to carry on their work at home and support the city in the best way possible. One of the things we've learned is now we're prepared if something like this should happen again, and we have all the tools, well, most of the tools in place for us. God willing, this ever happens again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Seeing that, no further speakers. It's been moved and seconded. Can I please have a recorded vote? Councillor Powers' thumbs up. Thank you.
And just Councillor Ferguson.
Councillor Ferguson, I think was on the phone earlier. I can't see now, but.
And that vote carries 7-0.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on now. There are no staff presentations, no public hearings or delegations. Discussion items. We have 10.1 is Governance Review Subcommittee Report 22. I'm sorry. Yes, Councillor
Madam
Powers?
Chair, just a point is the clerk, the LC made reference that when I just looked at the chat and she had indicated that when Councillor Clark activated his microphone, then he would show up in the chats. His name is still not listed in the chat, so I don't know whether you could pick that up. It's just a notation that I've seen on the list of participants, and unless it changed just momentarily.
I see
So
his name on the chat, but okay.
through the chair, he's not in WebEx because that's not, you can't be in WebEx if you're in council chamber, so you won't see him in the list of participants. Matt is putting names in the list of people on the request to speak list because he indicated that he would like to speak to a previous item, if that clears it up.
Thank you for the clarity.
I see Councillor Clark's name on the last, as a speaker on the last second item back. But anyways, thank you for that. Okay, so we're back to Governance Review Subcommittee Report 22-001, March 31, 2022. We have Andrea Holland and Stacey Appleby present. We may have a mover and a second to put the item on the floor. Moved by Councillor Power, second by Councillor Johnson. And any discussions on this item? Councillor Ferguson.
Seeing it to the clerk, then I don't see anything in the information section about the debate we had about the frequency of budget meetings and how that's taxing. I know it wasn't a motion because we just asked for more information, but it's also not in the information unless it's going to appear in the in-camera minutes, because the in-camera minutes are not attached.
So through the chair to Councillor Ferguson, no, it will not be listed in the minutes anywhere because it was not a motion and it was no note or comment. Staff took the information away and have I've sent emails for it to be included on our next legislative coordinator staff meeting, but there will be nothing in the governance minutes because it was not a motion.
Okay, I didn't expect it to be in the body of the minutes for this motions because all it was direction to staff. But maybe this is different because typically when there's direction to staff provided, it's shown in the information section, but I don't see it here. But as long as you got it, Angela, that's my concern.
Yep. Okay. Thank you for that. So seeing no further questions then, it's been moved and seconded for electronic vote, please.
So sorry, to the chair, just Councillor Clark has a question.
I'm sorry, I didn't see his hand. Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Clark.
No problem, Chair. And as we're working through the system with the hybrid system, we're going to have to figure out a way to fix this so that maybe we're going to have to require the chairs to be here because otherwise you can't see anyone in the room that's actually requesting to speak. Chair, my question is, how are we dealing with this agenda? Because item 3 in the governance agenda was approval of the 2023 committee and council meeting calendar. So would that not need to be approved by this committee and then council? Is that what we're doing?
So through the chair, yes. So the governance report had action items. All of those would be approved by AFNA today and then go to council for ratification. And then the information section is just received.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure we didn't lose that. Thank you.
Thank you. No further questions. A vote is before us, please.
Thank you. And that vote carries 7-0.
Thank you, everyone. We'll now move on to, we have no motions, notices of motions, and no other business or general information. We're going to move on to private and confidential. We have the 14.1 is the closed minutes of March 24, 2022. I have a mover and a seconder. To approve the closed minutes, move Councillor Powers, Councillor Wilson, and no questions. It's closed minutes. All in favor, please.
And that vote carries 7-0.
Okay, so thank you, everyone, on the roadmap. I just see that before we go into closed session, because we will be, Does committee wish to discuss item 14.3, which is the appointments to the Hamilton Women and Gender Equity Committee in closed, or just item 14.2, Great Meyer Arena Lessons Learned Audit AUD 22004? So is there a wish to discuss the appointment on the Hamilton Women and Gender Equity Committee, or that we'll just move that when we're back in open session? There's an indication by Councillor.
Yeah, I'd be prepared to move them in open session right now if we want to clear that up before we go into closed.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Powers, you were nodding your head. Did you wish to discuss it in camera, or did you wish to just move it?
Oh, I'm prepared to. Councillor Wilson chaired the committee in that, so I'm supportive of it being approved right now.
Thank you. So then with that, Madam Clerk, I'm going to have to whip through. So can we have a mover and a seconder then to approve item 14.3, which is the appointments to the Hamilton Women and Gender Equity Committee? And I see that State Councillor Brenda Johnson moved it. Councillor Wilson seconded it. Madam Clerk, sufficient and recorded vote, please. Did I miss? No, thank you.
And that vote carries 7-0.
Thank you very much, everyone. We're going to go now. We're going to have a mover and a seconder to move into closed sessions, and this will be.
So to the chair before that, if we
Yes.
could just have a mover and seconder to allow the consultant in closed session?
Yes, I was just going to go back to that, Madam
Sorry.
Clerk. Thank you. May I have a mover and a seconder? So here's what we need to do. We're going to go into closed session, and we'll need a motion to permit the consultant related to item 14.2 to join us in closed session. And may I have a mover and a seconder on the following: that Matthew Alter from Castles be permitted to attend the closed session portion of the meeting with respect to report AUD 22004. Great Meyer Arena Lessons Learned Audit. May I have a mover and a second? Moved by Councillor Vanderbeek, second by Councillor Wilson, and recorded vote, please.
And that vote carries 7-0.
Thank you, everyone. Now, may I please have a mover and a seconder to move into closed session pursuant to section 9.1, subsection F of the city's procedural bylaw 21-021, as amended in section 2392, subsection F of the Ontario Municipal Board Act 2001, as amended as the subject matter pertains to advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. We will require an electronic vote. So mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Ferguson, second by Councillor Johnson, to go in closed session.
And that vote carries 7-0. And we will just now take a moment to get into closed.
Correct. And I'll just read off. Members of the public are advised that during the closed session portion of the meeting, the live stream will broadcast a closed session in progress screen. The broadcast will resume when the closed session portion of the meeting is complete. Before we move into closed session, I would ask that all members of the public to please now exit the WebEx meeting that are not required to be here. Thank you. As well as staff and that are not related to this item. And please exit WebEx meeting. Also, please, committee members, be sure that you're in a private room, possibly on your headset. I am alone in my house right now, but I will close my door. And
Thank you.
Arlene, I'd suggest you read the motion in open session.
Yeah, I'll do that. Thank you. I'll print this page right now.
And committee, we are now live.
Okay, members of the committee, we're back to item 14.2, which is the Greg Meyer Arena Lessons Learned Audit. Councillor Vanderbeek, you have a motion.
I do, sir. Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Powers. That report AUD 22004 on confidential appendices A and B to report AUD 22004 respecting Great Mire Arena Lessons Learned Audit be received and remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure, and that management responses as detailed in confidential appendices A and C to report AUD 22004 be received, and that the General Manager of Public Works and the General Manager of Finance and Corporate Services be directed to implement the management responses attached as confidential appendices A and C to report AUD 22004, and report back to the Audit, Finance and Administration Committee quarterly on the nature and status of actions taken in response to the audit report. And D, that Council waive the right to privilege for paragraphs 112, 135 to 137, 142, 144 to 145, 149, 155, 157 to 158, and 169 in confidential Appendix C to report AUD 22004 respecting the JL Great Mire Arena Lessons Learned Audit, and that confidential Appendix C to report AUD 22004 be made public as part of the agenda for the April 21st, 2022 Audit, Finance and Administration Committee meeting.
And
Thank
just
you.
for clarification, instead of paragraph 169, it's actually 161.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say 169?
That's okay, no problem.
Andrew's on the ball.
Clearly says 161. Sorry. Thank you. And if I could just say a couple of words, Mr.
Sure.
Chair.
Absolutely.
I want to publicly thank our audit staff and the city staff and everyone that was involved in the audit for undergoing this process. And I think it's a positive process, and it will be a positive outcome when the recommendations are actually completed. So that's all I have to say for it today, and I look forward to April 21, 2022, when the report can be made public. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so it's been duly moved and second. All in favor? Councillor Powers has a sum up.
And that vote carries 5-0.
Okay, and Madam Clerk, on 14.3 do we have a motion on that, or is that done in open session prior to going in camera?
It was already completed.
Okay, then I need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Johnson, seconded by Councillor Powers. All in favor?
Mr.
Councillor
Chair,
Powers has a sum up?
Mr. Chair, could I ask a question
Maybe.
before
Go ahead.
adjournment?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I've been looking at the Governance Review Subcommittee report, which is item 10.1. I just wanted to report there's a slight mistake. It's appointing two chairs. Councillor Wilson is appointed as chair, and then they've got me appointed as chair. It's simply a typo. It needs to say vice chair. So how do we deal with that?
Angela, can you just
So-
make that change, or do you want a
To the
motion?
chair, yes, because it's a clerical error. I can absolutely make the change. My apologies. That is my error. Thank you.
The motion to adjourn is on the screen.
Great.
Thank you
And
and
that
have a
vote
nice day.
carries 5-0.